Hello, everyone. If you feel comfortable to come on screen, please feel free to. It always helps me stay a little more connected with people. Um, and I'll edit you out in the recording that gets sent out. So don't worry about that. And for any of you who don't know, I think I know all of you, but my name is Isa Marcantoni Rosa, and I have created Homecoming Healing. This is a space where we get to come home to ourselves through somatics, astrology, and psychotherapy. This is a creation that has been coming through me for decades, and is finally starting to culminate in a way that I can understand its form. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I'm becoming a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm also a Kundalini yoga teacher and meditation and breathwork teacher. So all of that is sort of infusing into my love for astrology and self-development. And I have been, got another person, hold on. Um, Welcome, Cheryl. Um, and so all of this is cultivating um, to meet these times. Obviously, we are in very difficult times in our world collectively. And I'm going to take some time tonight to sort of share the heart of this program, Frequency Shifters, as well as give you an experience of what we'll be doing um, to help you navigate this period. I'm going to start out by offering us a little bit of breath work so that we can come into our bodies and be more present. And then I'm going to open up a couple of different astrology charts and talk through what's ahead over the next year, particularly the next 6 months, that we're going to be using as a tool to sort of anchor and focus us into practice to prepare ourselves for the what is coming in 2026. Um, so before I go any more deeply into that, let's go ahead and just ground a little bit into our bodies. So finding a comfortable seat where either your feet are on the floor, or if you're in a comfortable cross-legged position on the ground, feeling the sides of your ankles on the floor, allowing our spine to lengthen through deepening our seat, our feeling of our body into the ground, and rising the head nice and long towards the ceiling, allowing the chest to slightly rise and the chin to tuck, the shoulders to roll down and back, bringing the hands open on our thighs, ready to receive. And just beginning by sighing out the mouth, keeping your eyes closed so that you can come into your own experience. If you feel safe in the space that you're in to close them, I suggest it. And then just sighing out of the mouth, letting go of the day, letting go of everything that was before you came into class tonight. Doing that 2 or 3 more times, just letting the body release, relax, and soften, bringing the mind and allowing it to come into the body through scanning your physical body. So you can start at the top of your head, bringing your awareness to the top of your head, and then softening your eyebrows, letting the eyes soften, allowing them to drop back, letting the tongue drop and the jaw to wiggle it, to let it go. Maybe sticking the tongue out And then releasing, bringing your attention down through the neck, the shoulders, feeling your heartbeat, scanning down your arms and wiggling your fingers, scanning down your belly, back body, your pelvis, feeling your seat against the ground, softening your thighs, your knees, and your calves, wiggling the toes, and then bringing your attention back up into your heart and just noticing where we're beginning our time together today. Maybe you even want to bring your hands to your heart to just bow into yourself. Just checking in and asking yourself how you're doing without any need to change it. Simply asking the question and hearing whatever the answer is with care, love, compassion. And then we're going to just open our eyes for just a moment while I explain the breath, and then we'll get into the breath practice. So, this is a great breath when you need to be focused and alert, with also more like from a place of more grounding. So, we're kind of waking up without it being something that's caffeinated and manic, but just deeper awareness through grounding. So, this is a sniffing breath or segmented breath. And we're going to inhale from the nose 8 times. And then we're going to exhale out of the nose 8 times. And the way that we're going to do that is from the diaphragm. We want to keep the sniffs coming from the belly, not the chest. Okay. So, really dropping it into the bottom of our belly. My dog's little blanket, and then he decided to move. So I'm going to come back just so you can see my belly. Okay, so when we inhale, we're going to pump the navel, but we'll do that 8 times, and then we'll pump exhaling out. So inhale. And we'll just continue that for a couple of rounds. As you go with it, you'll feel a certain momentum that will carry you through it. Know that as your nervous system is resetting, there's a strong likelihood that you will yawn, you might tear, you might get little like wiggles and shimmies in your body. Let any of that happen. However, the body wants to recalibrate, let it. You might sigh, all kinds of little things can kind of happen. So just allow the body to soften and move itself into greater comfort. And I would say, let's go ahead and we'll just stick with the eights. So let's do 8 rounds of this. I'm going to turn on some music and then we'll get going. Okay, so let's begin. I release control.
and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of
Keep the
love
tongue nice and soft, and as you're sniffing in, feel really easy to clench the jaw. So try to keep the body soft even as you're sniffing.
and surrender to
Should have maybe 1 to 2, actually like 2 to 3 more rounds.
will heal. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love.
Allowing yourself to really deeply inhale all the way into every cell of your body and exhaling through every cell of your body. You get to the very end of your last breath. Leave the breath suspended outward, really bringing the belly towards the spine and pressurizing the body, keeping it nice and empty.
And surrender to.
Now we're going to forcefully exhale from the mouth.
That will heal.
Inhaling again through the nose, filling every cell of your body, getting as full, as full, as full, as full as you can, and then pulling rectum flexing in and up, full of butt. You're gonna pull the energy up the spine. Keeping your eyes closed, really imagining all of your cells filling with this golden light, expanding your body. Exhaling through the mouth forcibly. One last time, we're going to inhale through the nose, bringing all the breath into the body, expanding the belly, the back body, the chest, the heart, opening everything up, filling your body with air and allowing that to be pressurized by pulling rectum, exhalation, navel in and up. Bending the breath, holding it, allowing yourself to be. Now we're going to slowly soften the breath out of our mouth, imagining our energy just gently dispersing. Keeping your eyes closed and dropping your attention into your heart. And taking a moment to check in with yourself, to just notice through just a couple of rounds of breath what you felt shift in your body, shift in your emotions, in your mind. Maybe it was just a small little thing that was about 2 minutes. Maybe it felt pretty profound. Allow yourself to soften into that change and to just ask yourself, what is it that you need right now to support greater stability within your body, your mind, your emotions, and your heart? Where are you feeling lost and unsure of how to navigate this moment? And setting a little intention for our time together today to learn some tools perhaps and some strategies on how to navigate the coming times and Of course, if you have any questions or if anything's feeling alive for you that you know that you came to this webinar tonight really wanting the answers to, please feel free to write that into the chat so that I can speak to your question. We're going to move into a little bit more astrology, where we're going to kind of get the landscape for what's coming in the next 6 months and sort of ground and understand some of our feelings of why we're feeling the way that we are, what's happening from a more soul centered perspective. Um, this is not a political analysis of what's happening at the world at large, but more coming from the evolutionary astrology orientation of neutrality and development. So, evolutionary astrology is a psychological, humanistic, and developmental point of view of astrology that is soul centered. And so, we are looking at the developments of the chart from this angle that I find brings so much neutrality and empathy to all of us going through what we are at all given times, not just this precarious moment. So let me pull up our chart for the Saturn Neptune conjunction. All right. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so everybody is seeing the astrology chart now as well as me, correct? Okay, so here, orient myself a little bit better here. Um, all right. Okay, great. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. Um, okay, let me just make this a little bit wider. Okay, so welcome to the future. This is February 20th of 2026, and we will be having this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So the reason that I start by sharing this particular chart and moment with you is because this is going to be a reset. This is a great reset in my mind, in the sense that Saturn and Neptune are coming together at the 0 degree Aries point. It's called the 0 point. This is the first degree of the zodiac, and it's a point of infinity. And this is the place that souls are born through the ecliptic. So it has infinite potential. All of life's possibilities, miracles, all of it is inside of this Aries point. And that's why it's such a special degree in the chart. And the 29th degree of Pisces, which we're going to come back to as we talk about the eclipse that we're in right now, is the last degree of the wheel. And it's a dissolving point. So that's where we currently are. And again, I'm going to bring where we are now in relation to what's developing shortly. But I want to just kind of peer into this future space so that we can frame and contextualize what now is and how we prepare for this moment. Um, so Saturn is our builder of time and space, of this third dimensional reality that we call life, this shared collective experience that we know as reality. That's Saturn. And he's two and three dimensional life. And he is also the fabricator of maturity. So he's here teaching us how to develop, how to grow, how to take responsibility for ourselves, our actions, who we are, and what we've created, and to really build integrity. Like his greatest gift to us is learning how to build a life of integrity. And then Neptune is more of the quantum sphere. It's the fifth dimensional reality. It's the spiritual, it's the unseen, the unknown, the unbuilt, the undeveloped. And Neptune is what dissolves reality. So Saturn builds it and Neptune dissolves it. And not only does Neptune dissolve reality, but it also spiritualizes it. It purifies, cleanses it through compassionate forgiveness and love. And this is really love at the unconditional state, love from the space of God or universe or source or creator, or however you frame that force that is what created this experience that we're in, however you frame that. And so this is a moment where I feel that we will really be having this opportunity to reset through a compassionate lens, through a lens that allows us a different paradigm outside of the punishment orientation that we have built our society on before, this punitive way of understanding our life experiences and good and bad. And, when we do good things, or like when we're good people, then good things happen to us. And when we're a bad person, bad things happen to us. Like this oversimplified storyline that we have lived in of good and evil and how things are parsed out is part of what is needing an upgrade, what we need to cultivate from a new sense of awareness that is not so much from a punitive understanding of God or source, um, but from a compassionate, loving standpoint where there is purpose to challenge, that challenge is actually there as a cultivation process, not because we've done something wrong or not because we're getting rewarded. It's simply neutral. This is an opportunity to develop, grow, learn, and cultivate our integrity. And so, as we enter into this reset, this is particularly important because I'm really feeling, and I don't feel like I've heard enough astrologers out there say this, but my intuition is that this is truly one of the most important transits of our lifetime. I have done the research on this myself, and I've, looked into other people's research as well. And nobody has ever found in recorded human history going back 20,000 years a Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. And so, this happening in our lifetime, in 6 months, like this is to me the great reset, where it's like we have the ability to dissolve what has been by taking radical accountability for our part and surrendering what is not ours, and to understand how to release and let go of what has been so that we can cultivate a new way forward together. And there's absolutely an energy here of the spiritual warrior, of the defender of truth, of really transforming our perception through grace. This is I feel that so much of this is possible when we shift out of the corporal punishment, punitive way of seeing life. Because if we think we're going to get in trouble, it's really hard to admit that I've done something wrong. Or if we think that by doing something wrong, I'm a bad person, if that gets conflated, it's really hard to admit that I've harmed someone, including myself, much less people that I love. But we all know that we are good people who've harmed people before, not out of malice or ill intent, but simply in our fallibility as humans, in the limited perspective that we have as human beings, which is inherently um, limited. And so, within that limitation and in that lack of understanding the full picture, we have errors in how we live life. We have a fantasy, a dream, a desire that we want to realize, and then we have the lived experience of it. And there can be a very drastic difference between those two things. This is part of the nodal axes of Virgo and Pisces. Neptune rules that north node. Um, and the lower octave of Neptune, which is Venus, is also right there on that north node. And we've got Mercury here, which is how we process and interpret our experiences. And of course, the sun is here too, bringing in radiance. And so, and our egos. And so to me, there's a real opportunity here to shift our perceptions through this offering of grace to ourselves and to others and to life and to being humble in what we do not know, what we do not yet understand, and um, being able to extend this belief that we are doing our best, that we are attempting to be righteous in our lives and to offer ourselves a deeper presence with what is that isn't so fearful in not being good enough. The south node fears of Virgo can be overly focused on perfectionism, but it's a misunderstanding of what is perfect, especially when we see it in that south node placement. It's, what are these control mechanisms and these behaviors that I have perpetuated in my life, the habits that I have created from the fear of the unknown, the fear of the future, the fear of what I can't control, the fear to surrender to what is larger than me, what is out of my control, to even admit that anything is out of my control. We can go into really hypervigilant states trying to stay safe. Ultimately, like, it's a strategy for safety. Hypervigilance is a strategy for safety. Criticism, over criticism, can be a strategy for safety. And where we don't really have the discernment of understanding what is mine and what is not mine, what is the other person's, what is God's to do, this is about realizing that when I release control, I open up to miracles. I open up to what is beyond my perception, what is beyond my current understanding. And, this axis really speaks a lot about that, about this perception of chaos. When we're talking about the 29th degree of Pisces, which is, the ending of a 30-year cycle. Saturn has a 30-year cycle. So remember, he's our builder of reality. So he started building the current 30-year reality that we are dissolving right now in 1996. So if you were alive at that time, placing yourself back and saying, what was I thinking about? Even if I was 2 years old, like obviously we are going to struggle to really know what our 2-year-old self was doing, but maybe we know what was happening in our family. Maybe they just moved to a new place. Maybe I started daycare at that time. Maybe my younger sibling was just born at that time. So we can kind of place ourselves in 1996 and say, what were the beliefs and the narratives that I had that created the 30 years that I've just lived? Um, and Neptune is a 165-year cycle. So clearly none of us were there the last time it was at this place. Um, and I'm going to just open up our current eclipse chart because that will kind of land some of what I'm saying as far as the 29th degree. Let me just save this chart really quick. Okay, so so this was the chart for the eclipse that just happened yesterday. And you can see that we have the sun and the moon at 29 degrees of Virgo. And right now, Saturn and Neptune, they came this summer very close to each other. They were in minutes of each other, but they weren't at the exact conjunction. So we were starting to feel things shifting and changing. And now they're in their retrograde, separating from each other. And we're going to have one final dip back into all of the old planetary sign placements that we've been in for some period of time. This summer, we had just a quick, about 2 to 3 month period where we started to feel new energy coming in. So it pulsed for a moment. It gave us a slight taste of what's coming. And now we're in the final wave going backwards into what has been. So Saturn is now back in Pisces. In this moment, it's at 28 degrees. We still have the nodes. They're here in Virgo and Pisces. And Uranus is still in Gemini. It's going to also go back into Taurus. And Neptune is about to go back into Pisces as well. You can see it's just 48 minutes away. Um, Pluto is going to remain in Aquarius, but all of these outer planets, the Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, will be going back in the next 6 months. So this will be the final dip. And Saturn entered Pisces in March of 2023. So that was the beginning of the dissolving of that reality that was birthed in 1996. And so we have this one final purge. We're really trying to make space for more. We're trying to make space for um a true new beginning that is not laced with the patterns of the past that we haven't resolved yet. Energy's desire is to resolve. And so if we don't resolve it, it repeats itself until you give it its space to complete. And this is a time of completion. And completion is hard for a lot of us because it means loss, it means endings, it means death. That, of course, there can be literal deaths happening in your life. This can be a part of yourself that is dying that we need to say goodbye to. And we also need to offer these losses the dignity of what they were, to realize how much we love them, how much they mattered to us, even if they didn't actually come to form. Not everything we desire, we attempt to bring to life is realized. And so there can be grief coming from the fact that it didn't happen. And then, of course, we have the potential that it did happen and it turned into a nightmare, or it was just flat and not what we thought it was. But there may be a dissonance between the expectation of the desire and then the lived experience of it. And so all of this Virgo South Node energy is saying that we need to purge these perceptions that and habits and behaviors that created those stories. Because, of course, in order to bring any idea to life, um, we have to build it. We have to bring it out of us. That's what earth signs are doing. They're bringing us through a process. And particularly Virgo is focused on the art of the process. But when we don't understand what we are sculpting, then we don't understand what it is that truly needs to be refined. So this is a time of discernment where, no matter where we were, what age we were in 1996, we now have a different awareness than we used to. We are aware enough to come to this type of workshop and to learn about a different perspective in life, a more soul-oriented perspective of how we could see the circumstances of our experiences. And so we're learning how to bring a more wabi-sabi orientation into life, understanding that the imperfect is perfect, that we're just in a developmental process. And in that way, we can have so much more grace with ourselves, as I was saying, for this reset point. But this next 6 months is really the emptying. And when we talk about, what will be coming for next year, we have a lot of air and fire energy. So, you know, things accelerate. These are the masculine energies in the zodiac, fire and air. And so things get hotter and faster. And that they also work together to amplify and accelerate each other. So, if water or earth was there, it could slow it down a little bit, but having both of them present accelerates the windstorm and the firestorm that can be inside of this. You know, it can be very aggressive, and it can be very aggressive, particularly in the air current, so the mental sphere. Um, Air wants to connect. It is how we perceive in this life. Um, and that's particularly seen through Mercury and Gemini, or I'm sorry, Uranus is currently in Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini. So they're kind of all in a story together. And then additionally, Pluto is in Aquarius, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So all of this is sort of connected with each other. And Libra, or Mercury is in Libra right now, the other air sign. So we're getting this trine in air coming into this chart. You can see this blue triangle here, and then a smaller triangle. This is called a kite. Um, and um, and so this is part of how we diffuse the energy of this tension, where we're really trying to learn how to surrender. That's this North Node path in Pisces that we're learning how to let go. We're learning how to begin again, and we're learning how to bless the future with the grace, so that we have the capacity to be open to miracles, to be open to new possibilities, to not be jaded by the heaviness of our disappointments. And so that's so much of the importance of grieving, so that we can process, metabolize, let go, compost our histories, even the histories of our ancestors. This can be beyond our own body. When we think in a more collectivist approach, which Neptune is going to want us to do, and also Saturn in Pisces, which is what Neptune rules, It's like, how do we expand what I am is? How do I dissolve this barrier of seeing you and me as different things, me and life as different things? We're bringing the magic into the mundane by revealing what was always there, but our perception limited us from seeing. And so when we come back to all of this air, we have to remember that we're talking about perception. And as Pluto is in Aquarius, all of these outer planets are talking about collective development. If it interacts with your chart, it's called an aspect. If it aspects your chart, then this may be very personal for you. If it doesn't, it's more of a collective change that's happening. And so with Pluto and Aquarius, this is a 20-year period. And in this 20-year period, we are having deep soul development of understanding our blind spots in the ways in which we have been attempting to liberate ourselves, especially liberate our social paradigms, liberate the collective. We're also looking at the misunderstandings of perception in the nervous system. So Uranus rules our nervous system. And while Uranus is in Aquarius, the nervous system becomes critical. The reason that it becomes critical is because the nervous system is how the body perceives reality. And ultimately, everything is perception. So when we are in a constant state of hypervigilance, this Saturn or this Virgo South Node, we are limited in our perception. Why? Because the sympathetic nervous system is active. The sympathetic nervous system is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And this is what happens when we're stressed. The perception narrows, and it does that biologically. This is not a personal preference, it's a biological reality that the perception narrows because the point of the sympathetic nervous system is to keep us alive in danger. So if the lion is running after you, I cannot take in the details of a leaf. I need to know where to step, where not to step. I need to know what is going to kill me right now, what is going to keep me alive right now. It is in this very near environmental like future that is just about keeping my body safe. And so, sorry, my screen just changed. I don't know why. Um, and so when we're in that survival state, biologically, the perception has to narrow. If we want to expand our perception, yes, there are new beliefs that probably could help to do that. There are all kinds of ways of understanding ourselves and lives that can help. But in order to access them, we have to shift into the parasympathetic state. The parasympathetic state is rest and digest. And the natural thing that happens biologically to our perception in parasympathetic state is that it opens our perception. We now can see the details of the leaf. We now can take in a bigger picture of complexity. You know, so much of these arguments that we are having at a collective level are happening in a sympathetic state. And so the defensiveness is coming because, and where nobody can meet in each other's perception, curiosity is not available inside of the perception because we're in survival. And from a place of psychological safety, which is paramount for most people to feel safe, they are going to do whatever they need to. They have to limit the complexity to be able to feel safe enough that they're going to stay alive in that moment through that argument. The argument is the lion in this case. And so in order to engage in difficult conversations, in order to navigate the constant implosion of information and confusing misinformation that will be continuing to expand over the next 20 years, discernment is a critical tool to navigate the chaos. Chaos is ultimately just inputs coming together in a way that I do not yet understand. I have not yet understood how to organize them into something that is meaningful. So, chaos is the Pisces, and Virgo organizes it so that we understand what happened here. What was its meaning? What was its point? How did it help me evolve? But again, in order to do that, especially for the next 7 years, while Uranus, the ruler of Pluto and Aquarius, is in Gemini, we have to liberate our rational mind. That's Gemini. In order to access that curiosity, we have to ground the nervous system so that we are strong enough to be in tension with another person and to be grounded so that we can see a greater um, complexity and beauty and possibility, and to understand what the other person is saying and where they're coming from so that we can move past these battles and add more into our life, more understanding for each other, for the journeys that we're all on, what is being cultivated here. And so, this Gemini to Uranus sort of shift is really like the A to B line. All of those little A and B lines are coming together and weaving into a network. We're taking a lot of polarities and weaving them into a tetrahedron. I said that weird, tetrahedron. Um, and and we're going into a web. We're understanding points of connection that we didn't know were there before. We're starting to become aware of the things that are under the surface that are motivating what's above the surface, and realizing that the unseen and the seen world are connected. And, this sun and moon at 29 degrees is right smack in the middle of the 0 degrees of Neptune and the 28 degrees of Pisces. Like we are in this um, connection of the manifested and the unmanifested world as seen through the individual, spiritualizing our own bodies, spiritualizing our own process, realizing that the body is a bridge, it's a vessel between the unseen and the seen worlds. Our mind is unseen, but the things that we make with our hands are realized desires or ideas of the mind, right? So the body is the conduit space. It is the bridge between worlds. And so the body is part of our anchoring system to navigate all of that. And so especially as we are in this we're in the age of Aquarius, which is 2,200 years long. And then we're also in the Pluto in Aquarius, which is a 20-year period inside of that. So, even when Pluto moves into Pisces in 20 years, we're still going to be in a time of acceleration, and where liberation is the ultimate desire. Uranus liberates, and it comes from sudden, shocking, unexpected inputs. So, when we're doing that through the mental sphere, as we said, this is all air, which is mental, we're getting tons of information constantly that is shocking, that destabilizes us. We want to disassociate when these things happen because they're too much to take in, right? We get overwhelmed. And so disassociation is a way for us to be here and not be here at one time. It's a strategy, it's a coping strategy. But in order for us to rewrite our story and to not just replicate the past, it is of necessity to be in our body so that we can actually do that from a place of greater awareness and of the radical responsibility of what is our part and what we can have the power to change and what is not our part and what we don't have the power to change, and to surrender that and to ask for divine support with that. Um, so that is essentially why I created the Frequency Shifters program for this time period. Um, because, we can tell people that, well, we just need to shift perceptions. But if you don't have a nervous system that can hold that perceptual shift, it just falls right out of you. It comes one in ear or in one ear, right out the other, like that expression. We have to have a nervous system that can hold those new beliefs, hold that reality. And this is also something that happens together. Both Gemini and Aquarius are collective signs. I believe that one of the gifts of this period is that through the pressure, the tension, the discomfort, and from potentially great losses, we will be put back into each other's arms. We will be able to break through the deep isolation that has come from an overly individualized culture and come back into each other, reconnect in love, reconnect in understanding. And that's also part of how we get clarity of what's really going on is by talking to individuals. I'm sure you've also noticed, as I have, that what I see shared through news or social media about what's going on has grown in distance from what my personal lived experience is with people. I find in my reality anyway that there's a lot of kindness and there's a lot of compassion for each other. And even with people who disagree and who are from different walks of life, I haven't seen the degree of othering that is coming from the more, you know, collective narratives of different forms of media. So it's like there's this dissonance from the level of hate that I'm being told is out there and what I'm experiencing. And I just have one, reality. And what I am very clear of is that it's just one, and that embodied, all of us are limited in our perceptions based on my algorithm, based on where I live and the places that I go and who I talk to. I have a distorted understanding of what is real and what is happening to people. It's hard for me to believe certain things I'm being told. But even more important is to come into gathering with others with that humility and to not say that I know what is happening in their life, but to ask them curiously. Gemini wants curious inquiry that comes from I don't know, you tell me kind of way of I would love to know. I want to know what's happening with you. And in that inquiry, we get to know each other. Um, we get to expand our perception. It's part of how the line turns into the fractal. We connect through conversation, through being together, whether that's virtual or in person. It's really important that we don't isolate in this time period. And so that's part of why I created Frequency Shifters as a group cohort. Co-regulation is part of the process. If one person's nervous system is grounded, it can ground all of the people it's with. The same as if one person's nervous system is not grounded and is really frenetic, it can destabilize a whole group of people. We've all been in group dynamics where both things have happened. So learning how to anchor into our own frequency, um, how to hold that regardless of what's happening around us, and how to strengthen our nervous system so that we can do that, so that we're not trying to will this through our mind, but actually having to build our capacities to do it. That happens with the breath. The breath is the most critical key to titrating. That's another word for strengthening from a somatic lens from the body. So when we titrate the nervous system, we aren't just regulating, we are growing and expanding it so that it can stay regulated even under more stress. So the body is a pressure system. If you think about the heart and the heart valves, the pumping of it, it's a pressure. That's the Saturn Jupiter connection in the chart. It's expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Um, so basically, we are going to be learning practices where we can expand and titrate the nervous system and and doing it together helps us keep up. We're all overworked, we're all overstressed, we all have way too many things on the schedule. So this program was made as a way for you to take small things, 3-minute things, and to be able to do them anywhere in your car, in the bathroom, in, your bed before you go to sleep or when you first wake up. This is about integrating small practices of self-care so that you can manage the extended stress that we are going to be in and not disassociate and lose our power. Because as we lose that power, that is when our mind more easily gets co-opted, where we become more vulnerable to um, conspiracies, to indoctrination, to all kinds of conditioning that is not um, what we would believe in less influenceable states, right? So this is about learning how to stay solid even under stress and having a practice grounds, a container with others who are working on that together. So basically, the way that the program will work is that we will start with a lunar ritual practice where we will initiate the month ahead. We'll be starting with Libra. And so we'll do a ritual to bring Libra energy into our life to understand what that archetype is about. And we will get astrology journal prompts for each week of that month that help us rewrite our narratives. Because again, remember, we're purging the old stories and we do not yet have a new story. We are in between storylines. And in that liminal space, we have some of the highest potential for creativity to come through. And so we're going to get these journal prompts from the astrology to guide us in our own creative process of collectively dreaming again. And we will also learn what I'm calling solar practices. So these will be our daily practices of breath work that will upregulate us when we're depressed, downregulate us when we're anxious, and then a mantra to nourish us to keep us in the center. So this is sort of the pathway of frequency shifters. And there's an online virtual portal so that everybody in the program can also talk with each other outside of gatherings. And then, so that lunar ritual will happen where we learn all of those things. And then we will have a weekly gathering for about an hour where we'll do the practice again together and we'll talk about and share our process with each other because remember that Gemini and Aquarius energy is so much about the connection, the sharing, the telling of our stories. And in that way, we inspire each other, we lift each other up, we learn from one another, we expand our perceptions from hearing other people's truths in safer spaces where they can be shared. And so that will help support you as you do the work every other day on your own. So that's the essence of the program and what we'll be creating together. Um, I want to open, oh, this is my baby. Hi, Lin-Manuel. He decided to come in. Come here, honey. Yes. Oh. Um, and I want to open the floor for any questions on what I shared today. I know I said a lot. Um, there are no bad questions. It can be about the astrology, it can be about the breath that we started with, it can be about the way that the program runs. Um, Oh, the last thing to just say about the program that I'm sure is on your mind is the financial element to it. This was something very important to me. I've shifted all of my programs, one-on-one services, as well as this group coaching program to sliding scale. Equity is so critical, and we don't have to wait for the governing bodies to create equity. We can do it right now in our own way, by understanding, where we are, and and paying at a sliding scale way to enhance access for others. Um, and this is at the lowest sliding scale, $22 a week. It's for 11 weeks. So we'll start October 5th and we'll end on winter solstice on December 21st. Um, and then we'll have 2 weeks break, and then we'll start the winter cohort in January, right after New Year's. And we'll do 11 weeks again, and then a 2 week break. So that's kind of how I'm imagining it. We'll see if that changes. This is all kind of being cultivated as it goes. And of course, any of the people who are inside of the container and who, have certain needs, like you're always I'm always here to learn and grow and to meet them. So I'm sure this will evolve and change as we go, but that's kind of how I'm imagining it right now. And there are partial scholarships available as well. I do not want money to stand in the way of anybody gaining access to these tools. So that's always an option as well. If I have it right now set up, so it's 244 for the 11 weeks at the lowest sliding scale, and then I believe it's 488 at the higher sliding scale. The mid tier, I think, is 366, if I'm remembering correctly. And so that's the range. Um, and and then if you're at the lower scales and you would like to do a payment plan, that's available as well. I have Afterpay on there as well, as in addition to, like, if you want to do a monthly payment plan with me. So um, I think that's all of the nitty gritty. So yes, please ask questions. And you're welcome to just unmute yourself, or you can throw it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Um, so you said the Tuesday sessions? Right now, I have it scheduled, Jen, for Sunday nights are going to be the lunar ritual. That'll be a slightly longer practice, probably an hour and a half. And then our weekly gatherings are going to be on a Monday morning, more than likely. And right now I'm thinking 10:30 in the morning. Um, but like I was trying to sort of navigate like starting the week, but also knowing a lot of people have, a lot on their plate Monday morning with work. So I was thinking by 10:30, emails are answered and then we can kind of come into a practice together. Um, but I'm open to doing an evening session instead or changing the time, depending on the cohort of people and what's best for their schedule. So it'll kind of vary based on who signs up and what we can schedule together for the most potential for in person. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay. Sorry for and sorry, keep typing. Yeah, I have a lot of standing meetings, so like
Hmm.
if it was during the day, I probably could not do this, but definitely not on a Monday.
Okay. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
understand. And, ideally, I want people to be there in person because we're building community and coming into more collectivism, but I also realize that people are going to be from all over the country, potentially from outside of the country, and there's just never going to be a time that is going to match for everyone. So all live things will be recorded and put into the portal, and you can gain access to them at whatever time works for you. So if you can't make things live, don't let that stop you from joining in. And if a lot of people end up saying like, I really need an evening time for this, then we'll find an evening time to make sure that most people can be there. Are there any other questions about the format or anything else that we shared today? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Please share this with anybody that you feel would benefit. Um, okay, great. I'm glad that things were clear. I appreciate your feedback. These things are always so weird for me because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Um, so yeah, thank you for writing in the chats. And I'll send this recording out to you guys so that you have it for later. And yeah, please share this with anyone in your communities that would benefit. And I deeply appreciate you and look forward to coming into this practice together and holding each other over the next year. So much love. Thank you again, and more soon.